Out of the box, WordPress has lots of advanced features, and themes like the 2014 theme will add to those features with additional functionality. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. WordPress also allows you to install what's called plugins. Plugins are small pieces of software that quite literally plug into WordPress and add additional features. There are thousands of plugins available for WordPress that do everything from add simple sharing buttons on your site to turn your site into a fully functional e-commerce solution or even a social network. To get an idea of just how many plugins are available, you can visit the wordpress.org plugin directory, and here you see there are currently over 28,000 available plugins that you can install for free on your site. There are also thousands of plugins available that are for pay that can really expand what WordPress can do and turn it into something completely different from what you get out of the box. Installing and activating plugins is done pretty much the same way you installed and activated themes. It's all done from the back end of WordPress. So to see how it all works, we're going to go to the plugins section. So I'll jump to my admin panel and scroll down, and here I find plugins. Here I can look at my currently installed plugins, and you'll see that WordPress actually ships with two plugins, one called Akismet and one called Hello Dolly. The Akismet plugin is a very important plugin that you may want to activate on your site. Akismet filters the comments that come into your site to make sure you don't get spam comments on your site. And if you have a popular site, you might get thousands of these spam comments a day, so Akismet can help you block some of that from coming into your site. Akismet is actually an online service, and it costs money to use it. So if you want to activate it, you have to go to sign up for an Akismet API key, following the link over here, and then create an account, and then activate Akismet on your site. The next theme ships purely for historic reasons. This is not really a plugin, but more an example that plugins are possible. It was created by Matt Mullenweg, and it's called Hello Dolly. If I activate it, you'll see exactly what it does, and it's pretty silly. I activate it, and this plugin will add a line from the song Hello Dolly up in the top right-hand corner of your admin panel. So every time you reload the page, you'll get a new line from the song. This plugin was created just to prove that you can make plugins for WordPress. And like I said, it ships for historic reasons. So if you choose to deactivate it or uninstall it, that is fine. I always uninstall it from my sites when I create new sites. But this plugin is actually a great example of how plugins work. You install them into WordPress, and then you can activate or deactivate them from the plugins panel. And when you activate them, you add functionality to your site. As you can see in this index page, currently installed plugins that are not active show up as white, while plugins that are currently active show up as blue. If you have a plugin that has an update available, it'll instead show up as red, and you can update the plugin right from within this window. You can also install new plugins from the WordPress plugin directory, either by going to the main menu on the left-hand side and selecting Plugins and Add New, or if you're in the installed plugins page by clicking on the Add New button in the top left-hand corner. This will take you to the new Install Plugins page, and from here you can either upload a plugin if you have one on your computer that you want to add to your site, or you can browse through either featured plugins, popular plugins, the newest available plugins, or your plugin favorites. The plugin favorites are linked directly to your wordpress.org username and account. So if you rate plugins, either from within WordPress or from wordpress.org, you can then find your favorites by simply entering your username right here. Now, previously in the course I mentioned I'm using a beta version of WordPress to show you this because these updates were recorded right before WordPress 4.0 became available. And that's why you're seeing this beta testing option here as an option. That may be something that's shipped to everyone, but I doubt it. So in most cases, you probably won't see this fifth option appear. When you're in the Install Plugins page, you can either browse the suggested plugins that you get from any of these four options, or you can make a search either for a feature or for a specific plugin name. And that's what you're probably going to be doing the most. So let me give you an example. If I want to add a light box or a fancy box to my site so that all my images will pop up in those nice modal boxes, I may want to just search for, let's say, fancy box. When I make this search, WordPress will return to me all the plugins available in the wordpress.org plugins directory that somehow match the search term I entered. So in this case, you'll see we get a full 6 pages of entries that have the word fancy box in them, a total of 179 different plugins. And then it becomes quite important to figure out, if you have 179 items, which one should I be installing? Well, the great thing about this new view for each of the plugins is that we get a lot of information right up front. If we look at the first returned item here, you'll see we start out with the title of the plugin. And if you click on it, you go directly to information about that plugin. Next, we have a short description of the plugin, followed by a link to the plugin author's website. And then we have the more details link, which pops up a modal window that gives us all the information that you found on wordpress.org's plugin directory. From this modal window, you can either install the plugin directly, or if you want more information, you can go back to the Install Plugins page and look at the section on the bottom of each of these boxes. Here you get the star rating for each of the plugins, and my general rule of thumb here is unless you trust the specific plugin you're looking at, you probably shouldn't install anything that has less than maybe 3.5 or 4 stars. When you look at the star rating though, it's also important to look at how many ratings there are, because if you have a plugin that has 2 ratings and they're both 5 stars, then it's not really reliable. However, if you have a plugin that has maybe 209 ratings and a rating of 4.5 stars, then you know that that's pretty good. You can also look at how many times a specific plugin has been downloaded and when it was last updated. Now, because I'm running a beta version of WordPress, every single plugin will say untested with your install. And you'll notice that as you update WordPress, you'll usually get that warning on a lot of plugins. So here you have to pay attention. The more important number is this one, last updated. Now, that's not to say older plugins are not good. It's just that in some cases, you'll have plugins with severe security issues that have never been updated or have been abandoned. In that case, it's probably not a good idea to install older plugins. Now, to give you a full understanding of how these plugins work in WordPress, I'm going to give you a practical example. And the practical example I'm going to give you is you want to create a contact page on your site that has a contact form. This is always a good idea because if you put your regular email address on your website, then all the bots on the web are going to go to your website, find your email address, and then just start spamming you like crazy. An easy way of avoiding this problem is by providing a contact form on your site itself. Now, this is not functionality that comes with WordPress out of the box, so you need to add a plugin so that the plugin can add the form functionality to your site. And in this course, I'm going to show you a very simple contact form plugin called Grunion Contact Forms. So to find it, I'm going to type in Grunion Contact Form, make a search, and here we find Grunion Contact Form. Now you'll notice it says here last updated 3 years ago, which means this is a very old plugin, but this plugin was made by Automatic Incorporated, which is the company that creates WordPress.com. And I trust the plugin because I know how it works. It's a very simple plugin and is perfectly safe to use on your site. If you go and check out the WordPress plugins contact forms course in the lynda.com library, you'll see a different way of using this plugin when it's bundled into the Jetpack plugin that's far more secure. But for the purposes of this course, using Grunion Contact Forms is perfectly safe. Now that I find the plugin I want, I'm going to click Install Now and click OK. The plugin is now downloaded into my site, and all the translations are sought after. In this case, we can't find any of the translations. And now I have a choice either to activate the plugin or to return to the plugin installer. So I'm going to click Activate Plugin. And now I'm returned to the Installed Plugins page, and you'll notice that the Grunion Contact Forms plugin has now been highlighted in blue because it's currently active. If I want to deactivate the plugin, all I have to do is click on Deactivate, and the plugin becomes inactive on my site. But like I said, in the next movie, we'll look at how you can use this plugin to create a contact form, so I'm going to activate it again. Now, when I activate it, pay close attention to the menu bar here on the left-hand side. You'll see that when I activate Green contact forms, you get a new tab here called Feedbacks. And this is fairly common with plugins. Plugins add additional functionality to your WordPress site, and depending on what that specific plugin does, you may see new main options in the menu, or you may see new options under existing menu items. Or, in some cases, the plugin does something else and you don't see any kind of features. To understand what a plugin does, you really have to read the documentation and figure out how that specific plugin works. But like I said, in most cases, add a plugin, you add a feature, and you'll be able to see it right away.